here's what, and you're not going to convince me of this otherwise between now and, say, barring anything cataclysmic in the first 3 weeks of the season, the end of September. Stop forgetting about the Bengals.
Okay.
People are forgetting about the Bengals. And they forgot about the Bengals, rightfully so, because Jake Browning was their quarterback for the last 6 weeks or whatever it was last year. Joe Burrow's going to be back. Joe Burrow's going to be healthy. And the Cincinnati Bengals, while they've lost pieces on defense over the last couple of off seasons, have actually backfilled kind of nicely in some spots. They go out and get Sheldon Rankins on the interior D-line. Von Bell and Geno Stone is a decent safety combo. I like that. Makes up a little bit for the loss of Jesse Bates a year ago. And until T. Higgins is gone, T. Higgins is still a Bengal. And so Chase, Higgins, they've got some other depth wide receivers. They go out and get Gesicki as a legit tight end target, and there's still the draft waiting. They don't have Mixon anymore. I'm not necessarily excited about Zach Moss as a lead back, but hey, maybe it's back by committee more this year than it has been in years past. In that division where, yes, the Ravens are the favorite for a very good reason, the Bengals are going to win at least 10 games. I'm sorry. The whole division might end up being in the playoffs when it's all said and done. We'll see. But the Bengals are going to win 10 games. Please stop forgetting that Joe Burrow exists. And in a year where I expect the Bills to be down, it's not all the Diggs thing. That's part of it. But I expect the Bills to be down. I'm not so sure about the Chiefs running it back again. The opportunities there for these two teams atop the AFC North, the Bengals and the Ravens, to finally put it together.
I'm having a tough time pinpointing one NFC team that I truly trust. I'm not including the San Francisco 49ers as part of this conversation. But just where I trust, I don't know. And that kind of tells me that there's going to be a squad that comes out of nowhere, maybe where there's a ton of value, because the path is not as daunting as what you see with those elite quarterbacks on the AFC side.
Green Bay?
Possibly. They're going to be very popular.
They're a possession or two away from making a run last year, right? I mean,
well, of that
I was
group,
totally
of the group of Eagles, Cowboys, Packers, and they are bunched up together. Of that group, I'm not picking the Eagles. I'm not picking the Cowboys.
No. So there you go. By default, then, we're led to go with the Packers, aren't we? I mean, I was a year ago, early November last fall, I was out on Jordan Love. I had seen him in particular in that game against the Steelers here in Pittsburgh. I thought he looked average at best. And then the cosmic tumblers fell into place. The playbook stopped looking like a foreign language. I don't know what happened. Something clicked in Jordan Love over the back half of the season and into the playoffs that, I mean, if we're just talking quarterbacks amongst those three teams, and let's throw the Lions into the mix as well. Who do you like the most over the next, and let's take the next 2 or 3 years in totality. We can't bet on that, but let's take the next 2 or 3 years in totality. Is Jared Goff still in Detroit in 3 years? I don't know. He's complaining about fan expectations last couple of days, as I saw. Jalen Hurts, is he going to continue to progress, or has he tapped out? Is he at his ceiling? Dak Prescott, is he still in Dallas a year from now? And if he is he actually, winning playoff games? That's a huge question mark. I mean, Jordan Love is the next best quarterback amongst that group that we're talking about. And, I don't see we get to the third tier, which really is, Falcons, Rams, and the Bears, funny enough. You're talking about an old quarterback who's this far away from being done. Maybe they draft his replacement this year in LA. You're talking about Kirk Cousins adapting to a new environment in Atlanta. Great. He's got weapons around him. That's awesome. Also coming off a major injury. And Caleb Williams, who's a rookie. And who knows, maybe we get a CJ Stroud like rookie season or better out of Caleb Williams, but I'm not holding my breath waiting for it.
That's what if you're making that sort of bet, if you're making the NFC North win for the Bears as the third favorite, that's what you're betting on. Can they do what the Texans just did? They're putting them in a good position. And we'll see if that ninth pick overall, if they're also going to take a receiver there or a tackle. I think there's a high probability that that's going to be the case, as opposed to a defender. They're already a top 5 defense. They showed you that for the most of last year, especially after the Sweat edition. So, but you see my overall point?
Yeah.
We can ding all of these teams. After
Wide
San
open.
Francisco, there are a lot of issues, which makes me want to go down the board because I think there's room for some surprises and maybe a team or two really exceeds expectations by maybe a few 3 to 4 games better than the win total.
Look, one of the things that I've kind of noticed is that I think the books have taken a beating over the last few years when it comes to an NFL draft. It gets the feet indoors to kind of bet on some other things, but the markets have really kind of been fluctuating. You've had some people and some books like post up over and under on a player, it'll get hammered, and then like 2 hours later you're seeing things kind of fall. One of the angles that I like to look at right now, specifically, is you start looking at some alternates to Dallas Turner being the first defensive player off the board. His over and under right now is set at 8.5, which it popped up for a little while, got hammered, and then books took it down. At 8.5 for Dallas Turner, it really only leaves him 2 outs, and that would be if Tennessee decided to go ahead and pivot from that offensive tackle spot, and then Dallas is kind of where he's universally been mocked. My understanding is that he's not. Atlanta. My understanding is that in Atlanta, he's not even the first defensive end on their draft board. I've heard that they have more interest in Verse and specifically Latu. I think when you start looking at that, you go ahead and can kind of start to see some of those defensive ends going down a little bit. So I think that market right there, and specifically betting either Verse or Latu as the first defensive player off the board, I think there's some value there. I'm here in Louisiana. I have some connections there to LSU, specifically through a couple of people that do NIL deals with the players and another sports agent. But my connections and what I've done is I've reached out, and from what I've been told, that yes, there is some smoke in the comments that Jaden Daniels had earlier this week that had to be addressed, that things have gone better with his interview process with the Patriots, but it's nothing out there really saying that he wants to not play to Washington or specifically go to the Patriots. I think when you really kind of check in on things, he really wants to be with the Raiders. That's an actual preference that I've heard come from people in his camp very close to him. But look, I'm of the opinion right now that there's enough out there, direct into whether it be Drake May or Jaden Daniels to really put forth your confirmation bias towards whichever player you like. I don't think the decision's made yet. You have both players going to be visiting Washington this week, and I think Drake May is very much still in play, and he's actually the guy that I like more from a betting standpoint. I think you go with the player with the plus odds, which is Drake May right now, and he's actually the guy that I think, even with Adam Schefter and a lot of the other big dogs, I think when it's all said and done, it's going to be Drake May.
Well, this Dallas Stars team right now has really picked up a lot of steam, winning 10 of their last 11 games overall. They get a win tonight, they'll be able to clinch the Central Division, and that'll be huge because they want to clinch home ice. They need to clinch home ice, but not one, but both of the rounds that they'll have to start, because like I said, they're playing some tough teams in Colorado and Winnipeg. And the differences between those three teams are very minuscule, but Colorado, that's a team where I think they kind of fall off a little bit because of they've been overworking their goalie. Alexander Georgiev's a fantastic netminder, but he's played a ton of minutes. They never really had a solid backup behind him this year to give him time to rest. And this guy leads the league in games played and minutes overall. So I think that could be their downfall, where Dallas has Jake Ottinger, who had some health issue early on in the year, able to kind of get back and get into form. And I think he's ready now to finally make that deep Stanley Cup playoff run we've been waiting for him to see ever since that great series that he had keeping them in against Calgary a couple seasons ago.